Def has a total of 5 different killers, each having unique playstyles, abilities, and stats. Each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, but some are definitely better than others. In this video, I'll be ranking every killer in Def on a tier list based on how good they are. Remember, this can largely depend on who you're playing against and what map you're on, so this tier list may not cover all cases. Regardless, hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started. For our first killer, we have the default killer, Pursuer. They are arguably a more simple melee-based character, aiming to pursue survivors, being able to slow them down and deal huge damage. They have 1000 health, 110 max stamina, a walk speed of 10, and a sprint speed of 27. The Pursuer has a total of 4 abilities, with its first one being the Swing. It attacks forward, dealing 20 damage. This has a cooldown of 1 second. Their second ability is Cleave, which lunges Pursuer forward. Upon hitting a civilian, it deals 20 damage and an additional 10 damage through bleeding over time. When a civilian is bleeding, their location stays highlighted to the killer. This ability has a cooldown of 25 seconds, which is quite short. Their third ability is Howl, which pauses the Pursuer in place, roaring into the air. Any civilian within a 100 stud radius is greatly slow for 6 seconds, making it much easier for the Pursuer to catch up. This has a cooldown of 35 seconds. Their final ability is Stalk. The Pursuer stands in place, gradually becoming completely invisible. Their movement speed is greatly increased, and it can see all civilians globally. However, they can't use any abilities until the Stalk duration has ended. The Pursuer stops in place as it becomes invisible again, and then is able to begin attacking. You can choose to end this ability early, but that results in more end lag. This ability has a cooldown of 15 seconds. The Pursuer is very powerful, and sometimes it can feel hopeless to escape them. They have the fastest sprint speed in the game, and a pretty good max stamina, and if they manage to land the Howl on you, good luck getting away. While Howl isn't very effective in an open area, since the civilians can gain a lot of distance during the animation, it works great if you're being looped around an obstacle. It forces them to abandon the loop, and oftentimes that allows you to cut them off, all while they are greatly slowed. Stalk is also a great option for closing distance, but it should only be used when the civilian you're targeting is very far away. The wind up and end lag makes it not worth using to close a short gap, but it can save you a ton of time during last man standing, when oftentimes the civilian is at the other side of the map. The Pursuer's damaging abilities are simple, but very effective. Its base attack is the same as most other killers, not being very hard to hit, especially with all of the Pursuer's catch-up options. But his strongest source of damage, Cleave, is insane. It is extremely easy to land because of the very generous lunge, hitbox, and full mobility, and then deals a ton of damage. An ability that easy should not deal 30 damage, especially if it only has a cooldown of 25 seconds. If you get hit once by the Pursuer's regular attack, then take a nasty Cleave, you're already below half health. The Pursuer is one of the easiest killers to play, yet one of the strongest. Its playstyle is simple yet effective. Cleave can be punished with punches and other stunning abilities if you miss, but if you're playing smart, you're not going to miss Cleave. With its fantastic slowdown from Howl and great damage capabilities, I'm putting the Pursuer in S tier. I think it's really cool that the default killer in this game is arguably one of the best, as it definitely makes the killer experience much more enjoyable. For our next killer, we have Badware. They have a snowballer playstyle, aiming to build up an army of computers and annihilate the lobby. They have 1337 health, 120 max stamina, a walk speed of 10, and a sprint speed of 23. They have a total of 4 different abilities, their first one being Swing. They attack forward, dealing 20 damage. This has a cooldown of 1 second. Their second and arguably most important ability is Firewall Bypass. Badware stops in place and creates a PC at their current location. When Badware is nearby, the PC grants them a continuous speed boost, making it much easier to catch civilians. They can be buffed by several computers at a time, gaining insane mobility. Civilians can destroy these computers, but it can take quite some time. Badware can have a max of 6 placed down, and they lose 1% health periodically if not interacted with. This has a cooldown of 15 seconds, which is pretty short. Their third ability is Bolt. Badware quickly pauses, then makes a loud sound, warning civilians. They then rush forward rapidly, damaging anyone hit and flinging them. If Badware does not hit anyone, they will have a moderate amount of end lag after. Bolt deals a measly 10 damage regularly, but gains an additional 5 damage per PC placed. So if you manage to get 6 computers placed, this ability deals a whopping 40 damage. On top of that, Badware also regains stamina while using this ability. It has a cooldown of 20 seconds. Their final ability is Rift. Badware stands in place, and all civilians get a taunting message on their screen. Badware can then select any PC on the map, quickly teleporting to them and creating a large explosion, destroying the PC and damaging any nearby survivors. They also get a large speed boost, making it extremely easy to punish anyone who is attempting to disable your PC. This ability has a cooldown of 25 seconds. Badware can be very powerful and a menace to face, but you need to play them more strategically than the rest. Your first objective is to try and get as many computers set up as possible. If you have 4 or more computers, you've likely already won the game, since either they super buff you in a certain area, allowing you to herd survivors towards there and finishing them off, or they can be spread across the map, giving you continuous speed boost. Regardless, try and keep them near each other, as not only will it make their chaining more effective, it also makes them easier to defend. You'll only need to sacrifice 1 computer to teleport back, and with the speed boost from the teleport and the speed boost from the other computers, whoever was trying to break them is fresh meat. While Badware is very powerful with many computers, he's very dependent on them. With a sprint speed of only 23, he struggles catching up normally and desperately needs that speed boost. Both can be tricky to use, as you may think you can use it to catch up, but it's quite the opposite. The long windup will allow survivors to escape, so you either need to use it against someone who is cornered or someone you're already right next to. Normally the flinging isn't that powerful, but on one specific map, it can be hilariously good. On base plate, when the bottom section floods, you can use bolt to fling survivors into the water, essentially one-shotting them. I've done this a ton, and it never gets old. If Badware is properly used, it can be very difficult to stop. With a decent amount of computers placed, they are easily the most powerful killer in the game. But because of the required setup, I don't think they're better than the Pursuer, since it does rely on a map with a nice spot for computers, and it can be difficult to both protect your computers and hunt down civilians. Still, Badware is easily an S tier. I'm just gonna put them one spot below the Pursuer. Personally, I think the Pursuer is extremely powerful without any setup or really much thinking. Badware takes a lot more work, and while they can definitely be stronger, that won't always happen. But their potential is deadly. Next up, we have Artful, who is definitely the hardest killer to play in the game. They have a resource management / trapper playstyle, requiring a lot of strategy to effectively use. They have 680 health, a max stamina of 90, a walk speed of 9, and a sprint speed of 26, which are some pretty bad base stats. Below average health, below average max stamina, and a mediocre overall speed. They have a total of 4 different abilities, with the first one being a basic swing, dealing 20 damage. This has a cooldown of 1 second. Their second ability is Implement, where Artful can create a wall at his position. The health of the wall depends on how many civilians are currently alive, becoming more frail with less survivors. There is no limit to how many walls can be placed at a time, but they do gradually lose their health over time. Civilians cannot go through these walls, but Artful can, allowing him to cut off choke points and disable powerful loops. This ability has a short cooldown of 15 seconds. His third ability is Copyright. After a long windup, Artful places a music box at his location. This music box slows down the closest survivor a quite noticeable amount, making it dangerous to be nearby. You can have up to 2 music boxes up, and while they can be destroyed through damaging abilities, they do not passively disappear. This ability has a cooldown of 35 seconds. His final ability is definitely his most complicated and interesting, Repurpose. After a short pause, Artful reaches forward, pocketing what is in front of him. The effect of this changes depending on what is pocketed. If pocketing a wall, Artful can use the Repurpose ability again to throw a projectile that deals 15 damage and slows the target. It has splash damage and moves fast. If pocketing a music box, Artful can use it to greatly buff his speed for a short duration. Finally, pocketing a civilian, Artful can now create a puppet. This puppet chases the nearest civilian, dealing 15 damage with each hit. It gradually loses health and can be damaged by survivor abilities. This ability has a cooldown of only 5 seconds, so you can use it very often, potentially creating many puppets. This killer can be a ton of fun to use if you figure out how to correctly do so, with a ton of complicated strategies and techs you can pull off. However, he's pretty terrible at simply chasing and swinging at civilians, so you will have to utilize your abilities to the max. The walls are a very powerful option, being able to cut off loops that civilians would otherwise abuse. While effective, it's extremely map dependent. Certain maps don't have good choke points to cut off, such as glass houses. And since walls are one of the main ways for Artful to catch up to civilians, if you get a bad map, prepare to be looped for the rest of the game. But he does have some other options. The music box can serve the same purpose as the wall, just not as effectively. It can be nice to put in an area where survivors want to loop around, but it won't fully block them like a wall. But it's a lot less map dependent. Pocketing a music box for the speed boost can be really powerful, and it can be a good idea to keep one in your holster at all times. Unfortunately, I found that the speed boost isn't long enough to actually be a menacing option, but it can help you to close a bit of distance and land a couple of hits. The minions can be really annoying to deal with as a civilian, but personally, I find it a bit inconsistent to create them. You have to land a Repurpose ability on a civilian, which is a big commitment because if you miss, you've basically allowed him to get away due to the hefty end lag. So Artful can be really good, but only on certain maps where you can abuse his walls. He's definitely the most map dependent killer in the game, and definitely the most difficult to use, so I'm gonna put them in the B tier. A solution to his map dependency would either be to buff his music box to slow down more, or speed him up better when pocketed, or they can make the walls bigger so they can cut off larger sections of the map. Oh yeah, also, a funny detail, if the last civilian left is someone with the banana ability, they will be able to spam it like crazy, making it kind of a nightmare to finish them off. But in compensation, your max stamina is now buffed to 170. I don't really feel like this is fair to consider for the ranking since it's a very niche moment, but I had to at least mention it. For our next killer, we have the Harken. Harken has a resource management playstyle with a moveset based around sound. They have 400 health, 114 max stamina, a walk speed of 9, and a sprint speed of 26. As you probably noticed, she has by far the lowest health out of any killer in the game, which does end up being an interesting issue. She's the first killer in this video to have a passive ability called echolocation. All abilities used by survivors now generate noise and fill up Harken's noise meter. If you're close enough to Harken when making noise, it will highlight you, revealing your location. If Harken's noise meter hits max, she enters an enraged state, greatly increasing her movement speed, but lowering her max stamina to 90. Her noise meter passively drains while in this state until it reaches 10 or less noise. The noise meter is larger depending on how many survivors there are. She has a total of 4 abilities, with her first being a basic swing, dealing 20 damage. This has a cooldown of 1 second. Her second ability is agitation, where Harken briefly slows down, then shoots out a pulse of energy that can traverse through walls. Civilians hit or sent into the air, taking 15 damage. It has a short cooldown of 20 seconds and creates a chunk of noise, filling up your meter. Her third ability is tangle. Harken creates a javelin of light, throwing it in front of her. Upon hitting a survivor, they become attached to the killer, being pulled towards her in a straight line. Strangely enough, they heal a bit, gaining 20 health. When attached to Harken, civilians take 1.25 times the amount of damage they normally normally would. If civilians get far enough away, or Harken is stunned, the chain will snap. Tangle also generates a bit of noise for Harken's noise meter. This ability has a cooldown of 25 seconds. Her final ability is Immolate. Harken stabs herself with a javelin of light, dealing 80 damage immediately and an additional 20 over time for a total of 100 damage. Remember, she has 400 health, so that's a fourth of her HP. This generates a large chunk of her noise meter, and she gets a significant speed boost as she is bleeding. You cannot use this ability when you're already enraged. This ability has a cooldown of 35 seconds. This is a very interesting killer, and while they do heavily revolve around the noise meter, they are still really strong without it. While their swing is basic, Agitation is a super good projectile, being easy to hit since it's lightning fast, goes through walls, and is quite spammable. It chips away at survivors and builds up your noise meter. Tangle is a really fun move and can result in an easy kill if landed. If you snipe a survivor from far away, which is easiest to do if they're in a long animation, like building a bonus pad, you can pull them all the way towards you. On base plate, after the map is flooded, you can use this to pull survivors into the water, which has unfortunately happened to me before. But if you land this ability, you must be careful to make sure you don't get stunned or let the civilian escape, as otherwise you've just healed them for no benefit. But if you manage to stay on their trail, that damage multiplier will add up quickly. And then on top of these quite powerful abilities, Enraged Harken is broken. She is extremely fast and impossible to escape without the help of stunning abilities. If she enters rage mode and decides she wants to kill you, you might as well say goodnight. This does however depend on how the lobby of civilians play. If they are smart and don't generate a lot of noise, it may take a very long time to enter enraged mode and could take several immolations, leaving you at low health. Speaking of health, her health is definitely her greatest flaw. Even if you don't immolate a single time, the odds of you dying during a match are very real, as each revolver shot deals 50 damage. With only 8 stuns, you're dead, and that's if you never used immolation. Immolation is a vital part of Harken's loadout, allowing them to become enraged much quicker and gain a temporary big speed boost, but every use puts you at the risk of being embarrassed. However, I wouldn't say dying is something I often see with Harkens. Instead, I usually just see them wiping out lobbies. The thing is, if the civilians want to kill Harken, they will have to activate her noise meter a ton, forcing them to play against an absolute demon. So with each gunshot, the civilians are potentially sealing their fate. I think Harken is super good, but it does depend on the skill of the lobby. Harken struggles with good players much more than other killers, mainly due to her low health. But if you can avoid the gunshots and abuse your broken abilities, Harken is a force to be reckoned with, so I'm gonna put her at the bottom of S tier. I know that's the majority of the killers in S tier, but to be honest, this game is pretty well balanced. The other killers above her, in my opinion, are more consistently good and don't have to face the risk of literally dying, but if it wasn't for Harken's low health, she would definitely be the best killer in the game. Now, for our final killer, we have Killdroid, Mr. Missile. They have a zoner playstyle and primarily use projectiles to damage their target. They have 900 health, 110 max stamina, a walk speed of 10, and a sprint speed of 24. Killdroid has a passive ability called Ignorance, which allows them to ignore the barriers of maps, which may sound pointless until we cover their abilities. They have a total of 4 different abilities, with their first one being Eject. Killdroid briefly slows down dramatically, shooting out a rocket in front of them. This rocket has infinite range and explodes upon contact with anything, dealing 25 splash damage. This has a cooldown of 2.5 seconds, which is more than twice as slow as other killers' primary attack. Their second ability is Flight. Killdroid stops in place, then starts flying in the air, being able to go across ledges, barriers, and any obstacles in the way. During this, Eject now automatically aims for the nearest target, basically giving Killdroid aimbot. Once the flight ends, Killdroid briefly can't move, but can still use their abilities. This has a cooldown of 20 seconds. The third ability is Deploy. Killdroid stops in place, summoning a kill bot that will stay in place. If a survivor is within radius, the Killdroid blinks rapidly, and upon blinking 5 times, they explode, dealing 25 damage. You can have up to 3 of these at a time. This ability has a cooldown of 15 seconds. Finally, Killdroid's last ability is Detonate. They stop in place, blaring a loud siren, and after a brief animation, their max stamina is set to 70, and they can't regain anymore, and can't use the rest of their abilities. They gain a massive speed boost and begin flashing red. After some time, Killdroid stops in place and detonates, unleashing a massive explosion, dealing 25 damage to anyone within radius. It also releases a shockwave, which slows down anyone hit considerably. This deals 125 damage to Killdroid, and Killdroid is flung. This killer is definitely interesting, since their only form of damage is a projectile, and they're trapped. That makes them a constant threat from any distance, but can also make it frustrating to land hits. If you don't have a wall to deal splash damage with, survivors can quite easily dodge your attacks, and the fact that it attacks 2.5 times as slow as other killers makes this problem even worse. Chipping down survivors can be a nightmare with Killdroid, but with some prediction, these missiles do deal slightly more damage than a usual basic attack. The flying ability, in my opinion, is Killdroid's greatest strength, as it is a fantastic weapon for dealing with people looping around objects and closing great distances by taking huge shortcuts. The auto aim also works scarily well, making it incredibly easy to hit survivors that are nearby. Deploy serves a similar purpose to Artful's walls, except for the fact that they can deal some solid chip damage. Civilians can be forced to either take damage from you or the bomb, depending on how well you heard them. It can cut off crucial points on the map and is overall a really good tool. Detonate, however, is an ability I personally don't understand. It seems really cool, releasing a huge explosion, but in practice it kinda sucks. 25 damage is way too little for the commitment it takes, considering that's the equivalent of a single missile. It takes a while to explode, and during that time you probably could have dealt a lot more damage than it's going to. But it's up other abilities are powerful, and I'd say they're a quite solid killer. They can struggle with finishing off survivors in the late game since it can be annoying to land your shots, but if you abuse the aimbot during flight and you place your traps in good spots, you'll do well. I'm gonna put them in A tier. They're not super broken, but still very powerful and can have some crazy lobby sweeps if you land your shots. Oh yeah, and one more thing I forgot to mention, Killdroid has a special LMS if the last survivor is using the revolver ability, where the survivor no longer has to reload their gun, allowing them to shoot every 15 seconds. It also now deals 125 damage, but since there's only one survivor left, they most likely won't kill you. I don't think this is too detrimental, but it's something that can happen, so you gotta consider it. I have no idea how this affects the ranking, so yeah, cool. It's pretty niche, so I don't think it's the biggest issue. And of that, that's it for the killers. This is my final ranking, and please remember that killers heavily depend on the map they're playing on and the civilian abilities they are facing. These rankings won't apply in every case. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my rankings and which killer you personally like the most. My favorite to use is either Badware or Killdroid. Hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out my Discord. It's linked down below, and I'll probably be active there after this video releases. I'll see you guys in the next video.